On the night of December 13th, 2023, the NBA announced that Draymond Green was suspended indefinitely. For most of you who've been following the NBA in recent years, this should not come as a surprise. But what is surprising is the word indefinitely. Obviously, we don't expect Draymond to be expelled from the NBA, but I don't think I've ever seen a player get suspended indefinitely for his unsportsmanlike actions on the court. This might be a first. We've seen indefinite suspensions before for things like drug use or other off-court issues, but this is different. According to the league statement, it was his repeated history of offenses that resulted in this suspension, and he needs to meet certain conditions until his suspension is lifted. It got to the point where even Steve Kerr, who's always been his biggest advocate, stated he took it too far. In this video, let's take a deep dive into Draymond Green's polarizing career, his history that consists of 19 ejections, over $2 million in fines, 6 different suspensions, and a long list of flagrant fouls that make you wonder, why wasn't any action taken sooner? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, let's begin. Christmas Day of 2013, a young 23-year-old Draymond Green in his second season matched up against Blake Griffin and the Los Angeles Clippers in a marquee Christmas Day matchup between two teams who were in the midst of developing a rivalry. Late in that game, Green threw a sneaky elbow to Griffin's head. This game quickly fell out of control and things got really chippy. Dre got a flagrant 2 and he got ejected. And though it wasn't the first ejection of his career, it was the first one seen on a massive stage, a highly rated game that so many people witnessed. Everyone saw this cheap shot. Previously, Draymond was seen as, a scrappy defender who plays hard and hustles. He came off the bench for David Lee and nobody really knew who he was. But because he did this on national television, his reputation took a hit, and instead, his image slowly transitioned into being a dirty player. Griffin would get a tech, and later get another tech and ejected, though the NBA apologized to Griffin and said his ejection was unwarranted, but Draymond's was, as Griffin called him cowardly. This wouldn't be the first time the two of them went at it. Draymond has always been a nuisance for Griffin, and it's always been one-sided. As the Golden State Warriors rose into prominence, they attracted fans from across the globe. They had their fair share of haters like every other popular team, especially when Kevin Durant got there, but for the most part, they were the most popular team of their time. And with all popular teams, all of their players became household names. Basketball fans everywhere, whether they loved or hated the Warriors, tuned in to watch, because their brand of basketball was fresh and exciting, and if you hated them, it's always fun to see them lose. At the peak of their popularity, Draymond's actions were noticed. But back then, because he was such an integral part of the team's success, his advocates and even the NBA turned a blind eye to his antics. Heck, even the players felt like Draymond gets away with stuff that other players would not. The most prominent example occurred during the 2016 playoffs. Remember that whole fiasco when Draymond Green kicked Steven Adams in the groin? Twice? He did not get suspended even for one game. The most he got was a flagrant 2, but that was issued after the game was over, so he didn't even get ejected. It was super controversial because there was a double standard. In that same postseason, in a playoff game between the Cavs and Raptors, Dante Jones hit Bismack Biyombo in the groin, and he got a one-game suspension. So why didn't Draymond get the same thing? I mean, if you're talking about intent, both of them appear to straddle the line between intentional and incidental. Even though Jones, like Draymond, claimed it was an accident, the NBA thought otherwise. Draymond did it multiple times and still got the benefit of the doubt, at least for this series against OKC. Steven Adams said sarcastically, "It happened before, mate. He's pretty accurate." The reason this sparked so much debate was because the stakes were gigantic. The Thunder and Warriors were in a tight 7-game series. A suspension could have swung the series. As expected, the NBA faced serious backlash for this decision not to suspend him. But when he did it again in the finals, hitting LeBron this time in the groin, They felt enough is enough, so he got suspended for the pivotal Game 5. The Warriors would lose that game on their home court and eventually lose the series. A lot of folks believed that this was basically a makeup suspension. He should have got suspended against OKC. Over the next several years, Draymond racked up the ejections, including another suspension after a heated argument with Kevin Durant, his teammate. It wasn't this specific moment that caused the suspension, though. Apparently, it carried over after the game, and the Warriors cited his conduct as detrimental to the team. Afterwards, nothing really changed though, and the ejections continued. It would always be for stupid things like arguing too much with the ref, double texts, getting into scuffles with other players, throwing the ball at the ref. It slowly but surely accumulated over time. Because the Warriors were winning championships, people looked past it. They looked past his flaws. Heck, even Coach Kerr has defended him so many times, even pointing out that Draymond gets reffed unfairly due to his reputation. I think he does make a good point sometimes. In the midst of all the reasonable ejections, there's a couple times when he gets a couple of soft texts and gets thrown out. It feels like Dre's image and history has a bigger impact on the calls than the actual incident that happens. People put up with it in the past because the Warriors needed him. He was an all-star and all-NBA defender, and we know they couldn't have won the titles without him. As the years went by and Dre became less and less relevant, his antics have gotten out of hand. But now he's no longer good enough for his fans to put up with anymore. And then this happened. You could say this was the beginning of Draymond becoming completely unhinged. But I think it's been a culmination of years of frustration. The worst part is, everyone in the organization was still defending him. Maybe not defending him completely, but they were trying to bury the story. Instead, blaming the media for releasing this video and not respecting their privacy. It was, a strange response, because you expect the team to condemn Dre's actions, which they eventually did because everyone saw how bad it was. It makes you wonder, if this video never got released to the public, would they even have punished him? This is clear-cut assault. According to multiple sources, what triggered him was when Jordan Poole told him to his face, "You're an expensive backpack for 30." 30 was referring to Steph Curry, his jersey number. Jordan Poole basically implied Dre was overpaid and carried by Steph. It's a belittling statement, no doubt, but it's not like Poole was clowning his family or something. Dre clocking him in the face is not an appropriate response. To be fair, it is disrespectful when you say this to a veteran teammate. Within the organization, it's been implied that this moment lingered for the entire season. They never fixed their relationship, and the chemistry issues were blatant all year long. From March of 2023 until now, Draymond has been suspended 4 different times. In March, he recorded his 16th technical of the season, which means an automatic 1-game suspension. A month later in the playoffs, he got suspended again for stomping on Sabonis' chest. Fast forward a bit, and in November, he put Rudy Gobert in a chokehold. 5-game suspension, his longest yet. Until his cheap shot on Jusuf Nurkic. Things are getting bad when even his victims feel bad for him.
What's going on with him? I don't know. Personally, I feel like that brother needed help. I'm glad he not trying to choke me, but at the same time, it had nothing to do with basketball, man. Hope he, whatever he got in his life, get better. So.
I've never seen an indefinite suspension like this. In recent years, we've seen it with Ja Morant, Miles Bridges, and Kevin Porter, I think. They all got sizable suspensions, but all of those involved legal issues off the court. By suspending Draymond this time, the NBA is basically saying, hey look, you're a danger to other players on the court, so we're gonna suspend you until we decide further action. It's truly a first in the history of the NBA. If you guys know any other time something like this happened, please let me know. In my mind, I'm thinking of all the players in the past, guys like Karl Malone or Bill Laimbeer, who were known for being overtly physical, throwing elbows, and intentionally hurting players on the court. But even for them, they never got anything more than a one-game suspension. In fact, most of the time, they weren't even ejected. The games go on. Perhaps it's a change in the direction of the NBA. There's such a thing as being physical, but not to the point where you're endangering other players. For Draymond Green, the NBA Commission's office has recognized it's becoming more of the latter. The bulk of his suspensions came within the past year. It's now a trend that they do not want the sport to be associated with. Anyway, that's all, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think of Draymond's antics in recent years? For Warriors fans out there, what do you think of him? Do you think this suspension and his past suspensions were justified? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.